Recently, there's been a scandal brewing with Congressman Matt Gaetz. See, Matt Gaetz is a congressman from Florida, the 1st District, and he is the worst. I mean, Matt Gaetz is the worst. We couldn't get any worse if we said, Lord, please send us worse. Last week, it was reported that he's trying to seek a job at Newsmax, but he's a sitting congressman. And a lot of people were looking around like, wait a minute, why would he abruptly just want to go work at Newsmax, a media organization? Yes, Mr. Big Head himself was trying to leave and go work in media. But a few hours later, we found out from the New York Times that he was under an investigation from the DOJ for sex trafficking a 17-year-old. Yes, we had to bring in the Law and Order SUV on this one because that is a special victim. But a Republican caught in a sex scandal? Man, that's shocking. See, it's a federal crime to transport minors across state lines to do sex acts, but there's no word yet on any state charges in the state of Florida. So Matt Gaetz is seen here trying to figure out who he's going to give the next rose to. Seen here trying to figure out which girls wants to feature in politics and wants a hands-on experience. So Matt Gaetz seen here with girls he's no longer allowed within 500 feet of. Seen here asking girls if they have their prom date situation figured out. Matt Gaetz seen here catching COVID-19. Matt Gaetz seen here trying to create an OnlyFans thumbnail. So Matt Gaetz, we figured out this is tied to the arrest of Joel Greenberg, a Seminole County tax collector arrested and in jail for trafficking minors. So this is Operation Homecoming under the DOJ, which the investigation started under the Trump administration. Here was his interview with Tucker Carlson.
Tell us what the truth is from your perspective.
So Tucker said, tell us your truth.
It is a horrible allegation and it is a lie. The New York Times is running a story that I have traveled with a 17-year-old woman, and that is verifiably false. People can look at my travel records and see that that is not the case.
Yeah, Matt, that's how crimes are committed. Let's just write it all down and log every crime that we commit. See, none of the stuff that he's accused us will be on those congressional records of his travel. It's going to be his private travel, and plus, those records wouldn't even include whether he paid for someone else to travel, so those records aren't going to do you any good. And notice he said, it's a lie that he traveled with the girl.
What is happening is an extortion of me and my family involving a former Department of Justice official. On March 16th, my father got a text message demanding a meeting wherein a person demanded $25 million in exchange for making horrible sex trafficking allegations against me go away.
So he said March 16th, $25 million. You know, he's too specific for this not to be true.
Our family was so troubled by that, we went to the local FBI. And the FBI and the Department of Justice were so concerned about this attempted extortion of a member of Congress that they asked my dad to wear a wire, which he did with the former Department of Justice official.
Daddy wearing a wire?
A goddamn wire?
So from what he said, they went to the local FBI, the DOJ got involved because the extortion was done by their employee. It's not like the investigation wasn't already happening. And of course they're going to need your father to wear a wire because they're trying to catch their employee in an alleged extortion attempt. Doesn't mean you weren't being investigated.
Tonight, I am demanding that the Department of Justice and the FBI release the audio recordings that were made under their supervision and at their direction, which will prove my innocence.
Now, hold up, Matty boy. I mean, Matt, how, Sway? I mean, how would those recordings prove your innocence? These could both be two crimes committed, and releasing those tapes doesn't absolve you of your crime that's being alleged.
What is the basis of that investigation? What is the allegation? That's really not very clear from these news stories.
Yeah, again, I only know what I've read in the New York Times.
See now, Matt, you say you only know what you read in the New York Times? You just said March 16th. That article came out way later, and you just said you knew about this March 16th.
Lie detector determined that was a lie.
So your timelining ain't timelining. Let's continue.
I can say that actually you and I went to dinner about 2 years ago. Your wife was there, and I brought a friend of mine. You'll remember her. And she was actually threatened by the FBI, told that if she wouldn't cop to the fact that somehow I was involved in some pay-for-play scheme, that she could face trouble.
I don't remember the woman you're speaking of or the context at all.
Translation.
Us? Us who? Who us?
See, Tucker said, don't put me in this. Like, I brought you on my show. Don't do this with me.
You ought to be ashamed of yourself.
So all this criminal extortion, his father wearing a wire, not trying to loop Tucker in on this and making him a witness. I mean, Matt.
Stop it. Get some help.
So Tucker had about enough of this. He's trying to redirect the interview. and saying, okay, this is about the accusation that there's a 17-year-old involved because Matt wouldn't bring it up. And this is what he originally started his interview off by saying.
They're saying there is a 17-year-old girl who you had a relationship with. Is that true? And who are they? Who is this girl? What are they talking about, the New York Times?
The person doesn't exist. I have not had a relationship with a 17-year-old. That is totally false.
So Matt does flat out deny it. But again, these records won't save you, Matt. So what likely happened, and it's just my opinion, and what I'm guessing is that he probably paid for a girl in Florida to travel to Georgia to do sex acts, because we all know from the Roy Moore situation that the legal age in Georgia is 16. So that's what likely happened. So that was a great interview, Matt. I mean, I give you... But man, it's time for you to
leave the fuck out.
You about to lose your job. You about to lose your job. Because later, Tucker straight up did this interview and squashed Matt Gaetz.
Matt Gaetz interview, that was one of the weirdest interviews I've ever conducted.
I mean, the extortion is a separate issue. The former DOJ official, David McGee, who he mentioned, wanted $25 million for an FBI agent to be rescued from Iran. They allegedly want to lobby Biden for a pardon. But both of these things can be true. And if the media is going to make an accusation like they've been making, then... And boy, oh boy, do they have them, because the New York Times has uncovered videos and pictures of Matt Gaetz in orgies. They called her cash out payments. They stated that drugs may be involved. They had him on ecstasy, and he may have even used campaign funds in pure Republican fashion. I mean, his communication director has resigned. He's now calling the DOJ corrupt, even though the investigation started under Trump. And now they saying that he sought a preemptive pardon while Trump was still in office. But Matt, didn't you just say this?
Obviously, I don't need a pardon. I'm not seeking a pardon. I have not done anything improper or wrong.
And it's a blanket pardon at that. Now, why would Matt Gaetz need a blanket pardon? Oh, because the blankets of the little girls are already in evidence, and it's called DNA, Matt. Now he's scheduled to do a speech for the Women for America First. And Matt, please, just ask for their ID first, okay? That's what we need from you. But I'm sure, I mean, these type of crimes, he's facing 10 to life. But I'm sure his career isn't over. This is just a minor hiccup.